tutorial to show you how to use some of these basic functions within Google Sheets so that you can maintain this accounting sheet without having to ask me a lot of questions. You can go back over it. Also, I've set up to do some kind of automated calculations, and I want I want to make sure you don't change the way it's set up so that those stop working. Okay. So I'm going to make a dummy sheet here. So I'm clicking on this zero, or this plus sign at the bottom of the sheet of Google's. Okay. And it gives me a blank sheet within that document. Okay. So this top line is going to be where we title it. And I'm going to name the columns. So let's start with that. So the first A column is going to be for dates. B is for rent or income. Column C is for an expenses. Column D is going to be explanations of what what the expense was. Column E is going to be the running total. And we'll just have column F for any additional notes that we might want to add. Okay. So now I'm going to use these 6 columns. So I'm going to take row 1 and merge those together and call them, the test. Just for so that it looks similar to the other ones. Okay. Column B, C, and E. B, C, and E. Those columns are all going to be formatted for currency. Okay, they're numbers. Column A is going to be formatted as a date. And the other two, column D and column F, are just general or text columns. Okay, I'm going to leave, and let's fill these in with orange also, just so that we can see those are headings. Okay. Column 3, row 3, I'm going to leave open for now because that's going to be our starting total of 0. Okay. Because you have to start with a 0. Okay. Our first date of income is going to go here in cell 4A. Okay. Now I went back to some of the records that I have, and I'm relatively sure Alex moved in January 1st, 2019, more or less. Okay. So I'm going to add a few more dates in here, and then we'll zipper it down so that all of the column A will be populated with dates automatically. We can go all the way to, as far as you want to go. So let's go all the way down to a couple more months. Okay, so that's thing is acting weird. Okay, so there's my dates. And we can do the similar thing with the amount of income. Okay, remember I already formatted it to be currency. Okay, now I know that for some of these dates, when Alex was in school, we gave her a break on the rent. So the $500 won't be exactly what every month was doing, but what was income. Gosh, this is acting weird. There. Okay, so I'm going to zipper this down just for the sake of completing this chart. Okay, $500 a month since then. All right. Now I'm going to set up the calculation for column E. You're going to highlight the cell. Now, this is really important that you don't deviate from this, because otherwise the calculations will get screwed up and you'll have to add by hand, or we won't be able to understand it. So just make sure you don't change the way this column is formatted. Okay, I'm going to highlight this column E4. Okay, that's the first entry. And I'm going to go over here to where it says functions, sum, and I have to add everything that's going to be part of this total. I'm going to add this starting balance of 0. Then I'm on my keyboard. I'm going to press the plus key. I'm going to click on cell B4, which is the $500. Add a minus key from my keyboard and anything that might be in the C column as an expense. Okay, that's going to be what the total is over here. And then I press return on the keyboard. Now, when it's set up like this, this calculation, as you can see, will replicate and update for whichever row we have moved into all the way down. Okay, now, going back to this initial computation, let's say that, okay, for 3 months, $500 was paid. And then say there was an expense in March. Now what I want to do then is click on row 6. And I showed you by pressing on the control key and clicking again, you get this context menu, okay? Sometimes that's hard to remember. The other way you can get that same menu and choices is go up to highlight row 6 and then go to insert at the top menu and you get those same choices. Rows, insert one row below. Okay, so now we've got a new row here and I can say, just for hypothetically, on March 10th, there was an expense of $200 for tires or whatever, okay, that we paid. And you can type that in there, tires. Okay. Now, as you will see, when I drag this blue dot into that cell E7, it's calculating it based, it adjusted to accommodate this new row, yet still kept the same calculation. Now, if I continue on, you will see that the calculating worked as I had set it up. Okay, so this is a very simple way to make that automate the calculations. Okay, now let's say, for instance, starting in November, we charged Alex $250 rent because she was in school. Okay, so let's do that. And you can see, again, when I zipper it down, it's adjusting the calculation to accommodate the new income level. Okay, so this is going to work all the way down no matter how many new rows you might put in, and say there was, $1,000 expense for miscellaneous. Okay, again, you can see it's going to calculate, and now it's going to say it's going to take that deduction. Okay, and it continues on. So if you have to add anything, any new row to show a miscellaneous expense, or if you have to change the amount of income or rent that came in, this calculation column in E will update to reflect those changes. As long as you remember to add a column like I showed you, highlight on the left, go to insert a row below or above, it doesn't matter. As long as you add rows where you're going to add another entry using this method in the insert menu drop down, the calculation that was set up in row E will continue to function the way it's supposed to. If you change the amount of income, if you add an expense, this is going to continue to calculate correctly. Now say, we fill this in and then you go, oh, by the way, there was that 1 month, this actually wasn't $1,000, it was $2,000. Okay, if you watch what I do, it's going to update. Okay, so as long as you use this method for adding new expenses, changing the rent, adding a new row, but don't mess with column E, the calculation will always work correctly. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this column right here, this cell, F2, which is the farthest right cell of our headings, and I'm going to make that, I'm going to go to view and say freeze up to row 2, freeze up to column F. Okay, so what that does then is as this table gets longer and longer and longer, it's going to hold these headings in position so that we can always see them clearly and they're not going to disappear and you're going to go, what column am I in, whatever. That's going to stay, keep it there consistent. Okay, so that's how this table should work. That's how it's going to be automated, and it's not going to be a headache or a lot of extra work for you as long as you don't change the way this has been set up. Again, if you want to add a row to reflect some sort of expense, highlight on the far left column then the actual cell number, go insert rows, and you can insert it above that one or below it. It doesn't matter. If you do it that way, the calculations will not get messed up, and they will follow and adjust as you go. Also, anything that you have entered in the column B, you can just change manually and it'll adjust the calculation accordingly. Very easy. So if you don't mess up the way the columns and the calculations are set, this should be a very simple process, very automated. So that's how this should work. This, by the way, this is the same way Microsoft Excel works, essentially the same way. So this is Google Sheets, but if you want to do it in Excel, it works the same way. Some of the terminology might be slightly different, but all of these types of spreadsheets and accounting types of software work the same way. This would be something that would benefit you just to know for other uses as well. Okay, have fun.